What's good, you guys? Today I'm going to be walking you through making your very own Pokemon games. Today we're primarily going to be focusing on making Pokemon games. However, this method will kind of be the same for most Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games out there. So you can kind of generally put this to all of them. However, Pokemon ones generally require a little bit of a different little flashcard for you right here. Something about having your own Pokemon cartridge with its own save on it. The nostalgia of it just kind of matters to me. So that's what we're going to check out today. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab the equipment needed to make this work. You pretty much only really need two things to do this. You're going to need a empty flash cart, and then you're also going to need something to flash it with. Something that can flash ROMs over. I am personally using the GB Flash, and this is a bootleg model. This is not the original. This is just something I picked up off Aliexpress for like $20-something. So these flash carts right here, the ones specifically made for Pokemon, we'll go over them a little bit further on once we get to that point of what type of cart you need to pick out. These run for about $15 to $22 depending on where you get them, and this is a Chisfamily cart. So you can pick these up off Aliexpress. The biggest downside obviously is the delivery time on these. Now, if you want to go the extra mile like I do, I'm rocking this right here. This is the custom one that I've already made. This is Pokemon Heart and Soul, so this is a ROM hack on this. I went and picked up a couple extra empty shells because I wanted to have this kind of color. And then I had a guy on Etsy named Matthew. I can probably throw his link in the description. He was able to help me out. I basically made a design, sent it to him, and he made me a bunch of labels. It's not focusing, but there's a bunch of labels in here that I can throw on these flashcards. Now, for the one that I'm using right now, I'm going to be just reusing the flashcard that this came with. I don't mind it being that smoked style right here. But if you do want to make your own custom ones, like say you want to get a crystal card and you want to make a, your own custom crystal one, or you want to get a yellow one to make the yellow version, you can definitely buy all that stuff off AliExpress. You just simply Google it or run on Ali and just search up, GBA cart shells, and you'll be able to find what you're looking for. So to dive in deeper with what we're using to flash, now this is not the original GB Flash. This is a bootleg model that I picked up off AliExpress, and we'll be able to see that when we start looking in the instructions here. But basically what you get is you get the flasher, and inside the box they give you a little USB cable, and they also give you some instructions. And these instructions, the picture's pretty faded. I'm assuming that that's because these are not real. And then the sign of the fakeness is a giant big label right here where you're trying to update your flash, your firmware. And that giant label right there is telling of how fake this really is. So we'll get more into that when we get to that point. But as of right now, we're going to go ahead and jump in to setting everything up. So the first thing we're going to get into is setting up our flasher. Now, if you already have a flasher and it's a different model and it works for you, by all means, go ahead and use that. We're going to be doing the setup for the GB Flash that I purchased off AliExpress. If that's what you have, then follow along on this setup tutorial. But if you don't have that, you can go ahead and skip past this part and jump over to the part where we just start flashing ROMs. First thing we're going to need to get is a driver. Now, it does say that if you have Windows 10, you'll already have the driver for this. However, I'm on Windows 11. I would assume that most of us are. If you're on Mac, it's a different story. Just make sure you read the instructions for it. But if you are on Windows 11, it tells you to go over to here, to this website right here above my head, and then you run down to downloads right here, and then you're going to scroll down and click on tools and software. It then tells you to pick up the ch341ser.exe. Now, I already have it and have it installed, so I'm not going to grab it, but you basically just click on this, it'll download it for you, and then you just run it as an install. It'll install the driver, so that way you can connect to your GB Flash. The next place you're going to want to go to is to get the actual GB flashing software that we're going to be using to flash all of our ROMs and back up any save files and back up our ROMs, etc. like that. You're going to want to go ahead and go to this GitHub right here. Once again, all of this stuff is listed inside of the instruction manual that comes with it, so you can just read up the links in there. If not, right above my head, you can see that link. Just copy it, put it in your browser. We're going to go ahead and click on Flash GBX right here, and you're going to download the latest one pertaining to whatever system you're running. So for instance, we are running Windows, so we can grab our Windows x64 zip. And I already, once again, have it and installed, but you would just click on this, it'll download it, then you just run it, install it, and it should drop you a little file right about here, this Flash GBX. So once you get your little Flash GBX application, you can then go ahead and open it. I already had it open, so we're just gonna pretend like I didn't, but you can go ahead and open your Flash GBX. So if you haven't already plugged in your system, as you can see, I already have my GB plugged in. If you haven't plugged it in now. If you already plugged it in, it doesn't matter. Now, in the instruction, it tells you to update the firmware, and then on the backside, it basically says do not update the firmware. So do not update the firmware. Anytime this pop-up happens, which it pops up all the time, click no. You do not want to update your firmware unless you have an original and actual retail model of the GB flasher from the original producers of it. You do not want to update your firmware. If you have the Aliexpress version like I have, we will not be updating anything. We will just be running it how it is. So once we have the software open, we can see there's a handful of selections in here. A lot of the stuff won't let us touch anything. It says that right now it says connected. There's no game cartridge in there at the moment. So you can hit disconnect. Just make sure that there's, not reading anything. So we're going to go ahead and plug in what we want to back up our game from. Now, once again, if you guys already have your ROM file that you obtained legally, absolutely, of course you did, then you do not need to back up your file like we are going to be doing. I'm just going to be showing it for purposes of the tutorial. Now, what I found really cool is if you have an Easy Flash, this is an Easy Flash Air, and it has an A/B switch on it. And if you have it set to the B position, it will allow you to boot directly into whatever first game is loaded onto the NOR flash, which happens to be a Pokemon game in this one's case. So we can actually plug this in here. And once it's plugged in there, you can see the flash down there in the bottom of the screen is now plugged in. We just click the connect button here. We do not want to update. Now, this is also very important. At the very top, after it says disconnect, which means it's now connected, you need to select Game Boy or Game Boy Advance. It is very important that you do not select Game Boy if you have a Game Boy Advance cartridge in that slot. Game Boy games run at 5 volts and Game Boy Advance run at 3.5. You do not want to overvolt your games. So take a breather, take a deep breath, and make sure you select the right one. We will be selecting Game Boy Advance because that is what we have. And now it says reading cartridge data. So right here you can see it's already kind of auto-populated, and right here you see Pokemon Emerald right here from the flash card itself. So it's reading it like it's a normal Pokemon Emerald game for the most part. And I can see there's some other settings here that aren't really filled out. Generic ROM cartridge and save type, it doesn't have anything on there. So the card that we chose to upload, we'll get to it once we get to it, but these are things you'll kind of need to know when you're filling out the settings. But you can just literally click this Analyze Flashcard button right here and let it run its thing. And then right here, it'll give you a pop-up after it's done, and you can click on details for more details. But we're just going to click OK, and now you can see it filled out 1M Flash, and then also it filled out the advanced Game Boy E2030, and then all the serial numbers and all that good stuff. So now if we want to, we would just click backup ROM. Now I've already had the ROM backed up, so I'm not going to sit here and wait and make you guys watch me back up a ROM. But basically at this point is where you would back up your ROM, as well as you can back up your save from whatever ROM you put in there. I just thought I'd show this too as well. If you have a Easy Flash cart that you've been playing and you're like, hey, I want to make an actual Pokemon game, just put that Pokemon game. If it is, your flash card is able to boot into the mode where it just auto loads into the first game on the NOR flash, you can basically use it like a flash card and you can rip all the data off it. You could also put the flash card, the micro SD card, into the computer via USB and pull it that way too, of course. However, I will say this, I had some trouble writing save data with this, doing it that method. I literally had to plug the card into it and then back up the save file like this, and then I was able to write the save to this actual particular model that I made right here. So for whatever reason, pulling the save file directly from the micro SD card was not working for me, so backing it up and pulling it on there is what ended up working. So we don't need anything else on here, so we're just going to go ahead and disconnect our flash card. So when doing Pokemon games, there's a big thing you want to make sure you're looking into and getting it done right, and that is picking the proper flash card for making a game on. This one is a Chis flash card. You can find them on Aliexpress, CHIS. They are what seem to be very high quality. It's a purple PCB. You get to pick whatever kind of case. It comes with several different colors that you can pick from. You can see there's a battery there for the real-time clock. This is a RTC 32 megabit 1M flash on the back. It's actually pretty cool. He's got a little picture of Celebi on there holding a piece of cheese. I'm not sure what that's about, but anyways, it's a nice, clean, cool cart, and you can always, like I said, pop these out of the shells and pop them in your own custom one if they don't offer the color that you're looking for. So now that we have our game backed up, we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to pop this game in here real quick because I need a save file to back up. So just a real quick thing, when you're backing up your save file, you can see a real-time clock cartridge was detected. Do you want the cartridge's real-time clock register value to also be saved when backing up your save? I generally am going to click yes on this. I want to make sure it's taking my save file off of my existing Pokemon game and making a one-to-one copy, and that's what we're going to be flashing over to our new game. So now we've plugged our Chis flash card into our GBA flasher. We're going to go ahead and hit the connect button. We're going to deny the update like always. And then once it's done loading, we're going to go ahead and hit the Game Boy Advance right here at the top. And now it will start reading all of the cartridge data. We're going to go ahead and hit analyze flash card just to make sure it loads all of the proper save type data and everything like that. And the profile, all of it will be exactly what we need it to be by just clicking the analyze flash card. Now, once your flashcard's in there and everything's analyzed, everything's pulled up, all the settings are right, we're ready to put a ROM on it. Once our cart is loaded in there and everything is ready to go, we now need to get ourselves a ROM to throw on there. So I'm not going to throw on a regular ROM. I'm actually going to be throwing on a ROM hack. Personally, I like the Heart and Soul version that they made for GBA, which is basically Heart Gold and Soul Silver mashed together and rebuilt on the Emerald engine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hop over to this website, which is basically a browser-based ROM patching file. It's awesome. If you guys don't know where to get your ROM hacks like Pokemon Unbound or Pokemon Odyssey or Recharge Yellow or whatever you're looking for, you basically just Google those, make your way to the legitimate website of the person who actually made the ROMs and download them there, or the ROM hacks. They won't be the ROMs. And then your hacks will basically just be like a blank looking file that says like PokemonOdyssey.ups. So they'll basically look something like, I'll see if I can find one and put it on my desktop for you guys. So we're going to use Pokemon Heart and Soul right here, and then this is our save right here as well. So these are the two files we're going to be using with this website right here. Or sorry, one file we're going to be using with this website. So we're going to navigate over to our ROM section where I've already backed up a version completely legally of Pokemon Emerald. And I just need to find where Pokemon Emerald is. There it is. So basically what you do is you find your Pokemon Emerald, you grab it, and then you put it here. Now, depending on the Pokemon version you're using, the Pokemon ROM hack you're using is depending on the version that you will need of the game and also the type of game. If you put something that doesn't match the hack patch, it will literally tell you. So this Pokemon Heart and Soul requires a Pokemon Emerald 1.0 version, which is what we just dropped in there. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop our Pokemon Heart and Soul .ups file in here. You just drag and drop them and then hit apply patch. Now, once the patch is applied, you'll see right here, it has downloaded it for us. So now that we have it downloaded, we're going to drop this onto our desktop there. That way we have it. We can go ahead and minimize and close out all these. So this is our hacked version now of our Pokemon Emerald that is now Pokemon Heart and Soul. So we are just going to rename it Pokemon H and S. There we go. And wait, is there already? I already have one on here. Apparently I already made one earlier. So I made two of them, you guys. Doesn't matter. We'll delete the one that I made earlier and we'll rename this. All right. So now that we have our flash cart inside of the GBA flasher, we have everything we want to flash over it. Now we're just literally going to click on the right ROM button. We are going to our desktop, which is where I have, as you can see, I already have another one too, but I just made one just for you guys for the video. So we're going to click on our Heart and Soul, and now we just play the waiting game. So depending, this can take anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to 15-20 minutes. You basically just have to let it run its course. Depends on the size of the game, depends on the type of flash cart you have, depends on the type of GB flasher you have. So because of all those different things, this can vary widely. I will say, once you've already flashed a game onto it, reflashing the game only takes like 5 minutes if you end up having to do that. But the initial flashing for the first time of the game, my computer is telling me it's probably going to be about 15 minutes. So we'll come back in 15 minutes and see where it's at. You can tell it's working, by the way, as you can see the blinking lights on the GBA flasher, which is a good sign. That's telling us that it's writing to the cart right now. So as you can see, that took about 14 minutes or so to write the ROM. It should be set to go. So we're just going to click OK, and then we're going to click disconnect. And the reason why is because we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to test it out now. We're just going to pop our game cartridge out of the GB flash. We're going to go ahead and throw it in the back of this Game Boy here, and we're going to fire it up and see if the game actually loads. Now we do have a Nintendo logo, so that's a pretty damn good sign right there. And there it is, Pokemon. So we're just going to pop in here. We're going to make sure Heart and Soul is there. It says save file has been erased or corrupted. That's pretty standard. You can just click new game. We'll go ahead and we'll run a new game real quick. We're going to save, and then we're going to turn the game off and turn it back on to make sure that the save is actually still there. So as you can see there, we've loaded the game up, and there's my save file right there. Of course, he's named A because I was just rushing through it. So the save file on these games is completely working just fine. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it back in, and now we're going to back up the save that I have on there just to show you guys how to write the save onto these as well. So now that our card's connected, we do the same thing again. We're just going to go ahead and press connect. We're going to turn down the option to update our firmware. We're going to click Game Boy Advance. We're going to go ahead and let it load up. We're going to analyze the flash card real quick just to make sure everything is going good there. Make sure it autofills all of our information. I don't know if it's necessarily necessary for that. However, I do know that you need to select your save type whenever doing this. So I just hit analyze and it just fills it all for me. You can just click the 1M, I believe. Now we're going to click write save data, and we're going to restore save data from a file. We're going to go to make sure we're at our desktop. We're going to click on our Pokemon save file right there, and we're going to hit open. And then it says it has a real-time clock cartridge was detected. Do you want the real-time clock register value to be written as well? And then we're going to click yes, adjust the RTC, because I want it to be my exact save file. So now we just wait for this to finish up. It usually only takes about a minute or so. Alrighty, so we're all done. Total time elapsed about 50 seconds. So we're just going to click OK. We're going to click disconnect. And now we're just going to make sure that our save file is present on the cartridge. And there we have it. We have my daughter's save file for Heart and Soul now on the cart. So obviously I'm going to erase that because this is for me and I want to make my own save file. But I just wanted to transfer a save file for you guys so you can see that it works. So all that's left to do for here is to literally just put my custom sticker onto my shell, and then I have myself a custom made ROM hacked Pokemon Heart and Soul on its own cartridge with the real-time clock and everything. Now there are some little things that I've ran into while doing this. Like I said, this is I've done this a few times. I've already made a few copies of this game. One of those being pulling the save file off of a flash card and then writing it to the ROM or writing it to the cart. That did work for me one time, and then for whatever reason on the second time it just wouldn't work at all. I literally had to plug it in like it was a Emerald game and then back the save file up using the GB software and then flash it. So I've had, you know, a hit and miss on that, but like I said, if you have a flash cart with a B on it, you can transfer your saves from that. Now as for using a RTC flash cart, which is what I recommend when doing Pokemon games, or at least Pokemon games that require this type of cart, there are ways around it. If you have one of the cheaper carts, if you have something else that doesn't have the real-time clock on it or doesn't have the proper save format for it, the proper save types, there are ways around it, and that would be this website right here. This GitHub right here. It's the same ones who make the GB flashing software. It's just a different repository in there. I'll throw all the links down in the description for you, but basically you just download this 1M flash patcher and it'll give you this little exe right here, and then you just take your game that you're gonna put onto your flash cart and just drag it over here and on top of it, and then right here it'll just tell you to press enter in here. So we're gonna move it off to the side because it has info on it, and we're just gonna press enter, and then you press enter again, and then it should create a Pokemon right here. So now it created this patched GBA file ROM, which is then what you would use instead of the original ROM. So technically this is a second time patched. We patched it from Emerald to Pokemon Heart and Soul, and then we patched it from Heart and Soul so that way it would work with different types of save type data on these different types of cards, different types of hardware. However, like I said, I recommend buying these. These have been working great. Well, that's it, guys. Now you're ready to make your own custom GB games and start giving them to all your children because you had too many and you don't want to buy 5 copies of Emerald. But on a real note, I appreciate you guys sticking it through here till the end, and I'm going to go real quick because I feel like a lot of people that might be watching this video might be wondering how I feel about this hardware from these people from Aliexpress. So up first is the GB Flash. Overall, I think this is a great product. It does exactly what I need it to do. It reads, it writes, it backs up. Everything I needed to do works great. Obviously don't update the firmware for it because it's not a legitimate product, but for $20 compared to the other things on the market, especially some of the more name brand ones, this does exactly what I needed to do. I don't need it to do anything crazy. I don't need any extra special features as long as I can back up my saves and make myself my own little custom Pokemon games. Overall, the parts on it seem pretty high quality. Don't mind the piece of metal. That was just what I was using as a stand. The parts on it seem quality enough. It's got a USB-C port on there. There is a firmware flash on here, little button. I didn't use it. There's also some LEDs letting you know where it's at on its journey through flashing your ROMs and backing up your saves. Overall, it feels quality enough. I would have not have expected this for like 25 bucks. And then lastly, of course, we got the Chis carts here. These things have been awesome. I suggest buying these ones. The boards feel very quality. The picture on the back is extremely quality. The print on it's quality. The parts look quality. If someone was to hand me this PCB and tell me that it's a Pokemon game, I would have thought it was just an upgraded Pokemon game. They look very clean, and so far they've been working great. I've had no issues with any save data loss or anything like that. Obviously, for longevity, who knows? Will they make it 20 years like the other Pokemon games? I don't really know, but I will say, at least for now and what I've been using them for, they've been working great. And for the price of being able to make these on your own for only about like 15 to 20 bucks is a steal. So all the links down in the description will be there. Chisfamily store is what you're going to search up on Aliexpress. Sadly, because the links are always constantly changing, it's kind of hard for me to leave something in the description for Aliexpress because it'll just disappear within 6 months. So if you just go to the store on Aliexpress, Chisfamily store, you'll be able to search up all the cool products, including the GB flasher, as well as his flash carts that he sells there. For the custom cartridge labels, I was using someone called Matthew Mods on the Etsy store. He printed these out for me, and as you can see, they came out in amazing detail, as well as he made them holographic for me, which was awesome. Basically, all I did was I went on to Photopea and I mocked up what I wanted the game to look like. I cropped it to the proper size. I sent it over to him, asked him how it looked. He told me it looked great. He was quick to respond. He had them shipped within the same week that I had ordered them, so he had already printed it and shipped them. So I highly recommend this guy if you guys are looking for any custom labeling for your Game Boy carts, because he does an amazing job. He even has the corners rounded and everything that makes sure that they fit in there nice and perfect on the carts. So links are down in the description, you guys. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit the like, hit the follow. I'll see you guys in the next video.